These fighters can no longer jump around. They have taken 2 baths in cold water. The treasures that ancient people have kept for over 1,000 years have surprisingly turned into a dish. This breeding farm, located in the remote countryside, is one of the noisiest places in Thailand. Each cycle 50 million crickets are sent away. During the hormonally charged breeding period, farmers select the next generation of breeders based on the cricket's size and calls. They throw them into a group of females to find their mate. The male giant crickets have larger heads and only 2 antennae at the tail. The male tsetse crickets have smaller heads, but an extra ovipositor compared to the males. During midsummer, they love to disturb people's dreams at night, and you can't find them even after searching for a long time. Damn chatterboxes. Doesn't their throat hurt? In fact, giant crickets have exhaust vents under their wings. When their wings flap, the fine filaments and hind wings create friction and sound. They can only produce 1 chirp every time they flap their wings 8 times to perform a mating song. They almost wear out their wings every time. The tsetse cricket's wings don't have instruments, so they can't make a chirping sound, but the thighs of their front legs serve as hidden ears, very sensitive to vibrations and noise. They can hear the males call from a distance. If a jeune falls in love with a chong, she will actively approach and quickly form a pair. While the breeders are busy making their moves, they place dozens of trays into the ponds. The trays, filled with loose and moist coconut soil, are the top breeding grounds with magnetic attraction. As the breeding season approaches, more and more crickets climb onto the trays, inserting their ovipositors into the coconut soil. It takes 1 to 2 days to lay clusters of tiny eggs. Each time they lay, it can reach 500 to 600 eggs. Before long, the coconut soil turns into a layered cake. At first glance, you may have the urge to snatch some food. The farmers collect a batch of cakes every 2 to 3 days. Some are sold directly to individuals, while the rest are packed into woven bags and left to sleep for 2 days before being evenly spread out, covered with blankets and a light-blocking membrane to keep the temperature between 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. After about 20 to 25 days, the once empty incubation pool is filled with thousands of tiny creatures. At this stage, the larvae are in their weakest form, with a body length close to 1 millimeter. Their bodies are translucent and resemble termites. They will live in the incubation pool for 3 days, until they turn into little black specks. Then they are ready to be sent to the nursery pool. A batch of healthy and high-quality larvae is the key to the profitability of cricket farming. This breeding pool, 2 meters wide and 80 centimeters high, is the stage for the winners. If they want to continue enjoying the feeding benefits, they must prove their abilities. Only those with strong vitality and firm bodies have the chance to survive to the next stage. Before the weak larvae move in, the workers perform a fire therapy on the pool, thoroughly cleaning it of unknown creatures. The harmful microorganisms lurking in the shadows are dealt with using quicklime and tea residue. At the same time, the workers prepare a large number of egg clumps to provide shelter for the tsetse crickets. They use 2 bamboo sticks as support and invert the egg trays to set them in place, effortlessly creating countless little burrows. The workers use tools to collect the cricket larvae and temporarily place them near the coconut soil before sending them to the breeding pool. Crickets are nocturnal creatures and prefer to burrow. They will find a burrow similar to the ones used by the performers. Unlike wild crickets, the first generation of ancestors invited to settle here, live carefree with no worries about food or drink. To ensure the crickets grow well, it's important to feed them on time and in appropriate amounts. Developing good eating habits is crucial. Feeding every 2 days is enough for them to grow. Clean drinking water is also a priority. The workers use a small frequent addition method to reduce water pollution. And when it's mealtime, the crickets are kept hydrated. Some breeding farms even have drinking pipes, where the little ones can easily drink by pulling a cotton string. Tsetse crickets are omnivores. In addition to various grain powders and feed, they also need enough fresh leaves. Although a single cricket doesn't eat much, the farm houses tens of millions of them. In just 1 week, they can consume thousands of pounds of feed. Feeding them fruits and vegetables not only improves their appetite, but also reduces feed costs. Here, crickets don't need to worry about predators, nor do they need to search for food. They only need to focus on growing bigger. In just 15 days, they reach the size. Their harmonious coexistence will likely puzzle many. Aren't crickets solitary creatures, prone to fighting? Actually, crickets are social during their juvenile stage, though they become solitary and aggressive as adults. But male tsetse crickets generally don't fight female crickets. When two male crickets fight to the death, it's either to compete for territory or to win a mate. Ancient people formally took advantage of this trait by capturing them from the wild and placing them in a fighting arena for entertainment and gambling. It gradually developed into a popular folk pastime. To this day, cricket fighting is still an essential entertainment activity in many regions during the Mid-Autumn Festival, and has led to a whole industry surrounding crickets. However, very few people consider them as food. In food-abundant Thailand, tsetse crickets can be stewed, boiled, fried, or grilled. It's thrilling and exciting. Each bite is delicious. Would you like to try these tender, crispy little crickets? Tsetse crickets are cold-blooded animals. Their growth is influenced by temperature and humidity. In Thailand, which has a summer-like climate year-round, they can be farmed throughout the year. Breeding farms with ventilation on all sides not only help the crickets stay healthy, but also promote air circulation and cooling. If the climate is too dry, farmers use mist sprayers to maintain humidity, keeping it between 65% and 75%. In the wild, they can jump and disappear in the blink of an eye. But those in captivity have already lost their wild instincts. A strip of transparent tape is enough to block their way. Crickets have a very short lifespan, usually only living for 4 to 6 months. But in farming environments, longevity is not a concern. Once they reach around 45 days old, some farmers harvest a batch early, selling them as food for other animals, or processing them into animal feed. The lucky ones that remain do not know that their time is short. The days of eating and drinking have dulled their senses. The only thing on their minds is molting. Crickets have a habit of recognizing their kin. The greatest danger during molting is the presence of nearby brothers and sisters. Every time molting season comes around, they hide away, using the pressure from their blood to break free from their old exoskeleton. As incomplete metamorphosis insects, they need to molt at least 7 times to grow into adults. If at any point they lack strength or are startled, they may end up missing limbs. Or in worse cases, their life cycle may end there. As the crickets continue to molt, they grow bigger and darker, and develop a perfect pair of wings. Their food also changes from powder to grain pulp, and they no longer need to worry about drowning when drinking water. At this point, the farmers add mesh screens to prevent them from escaping. When they reach 2 months old, the lucky ones are selected as breeders and continue to enjoy being fed. The others become high-protein food. As the workers constantly shake the crickets, they fall into trays with holes at the bottom. After sifting out feces and other impurities, they are weighed and packed into plastic bags until they all suffocate to death. The workers pour the crickets into a water tank and rinse them 3 to 4 times. Then they drain the water. Finally, they cook them in boiling water for 10 minutes. Afterwards, they are taken out, spread out, and cooled. Once the crickets are completely dried, they are packed in metal bags and stored in a warm cabinet. This breeding farm can raise 6 batches of crickets per year. Large-scale farms can harvest over 50 million crickets per batch, but only a small portion is consumed in the domestic market. Most are exported to Japan and Europe. In addition to harvesting crickets, farmers also collect nearly 3,000 kilograms of cricket manure annually, which is used for their own crops or sold to plantations. Farming is not easy. The money earned is hard-earned. Meanwhile, in processing factories in Europe, the crickets are first thawed and reawakened. They are inspected to ensure there are no fragments. Then they are spread evenly on trays and baked in an oven until crispy. Next, they are marinated with seasonings before being ground into a brown powder, packed in 23-pound boxes, and shipped to major supermarkets. They are also added to flour to make various cakes, cookies, and other foods. In Thailand, the price of 1 kilogram of crickets is less than 20 yuan, but once processed into cricket powder, the price of 1 kilogram jumps to over 300 yuan, which is more than 40 times the price of regular flour. Although it's cricket powder, why is it so favored by foreigners? In fact, crickets contain more protein than beef, and also have fiber, iron, calcium, and other nutrients. Compared to traditional farming, cricket farming seems to be more environmentally friendly. For example, to produce 1 kilogram of beef, more than 20,000 liters of water are needed, but only about 800 liters of water is required for 1 kilogram of cricket powder. Additionally, raising poultry and livestock can be affected by serious epidemics that also harm human health. But crickets don't have that concern. Cross-species viruses generally don't require preventive measures. They have the potential to be a food source for the future. So when you encounter this delicacy, don't panic too much. There are many decades of farming ahead. Eat with confidence. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.